In addition to the new immigration bill we told you about earlier, the Biden administration is announcing new changes regarding who immigration enforcement targets. Under new guidance, immigration and customs enforcement agents were told to prioritize the arrest of those who pose, quote, the most pressing threats to national security, border security, and public safety. That includes people who crossed the border without legal permission after November 1st, 2020, and non-citizens convicted of crimes deemed to be aggravated felonies under U.S. immigration law. Former acting Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf led the department that oversaw ICE during the Trump administration. He's now a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation and joins us now. Chad, thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So you were reportedly involved in conversations about separating undocumented families as far back as December of 2017. The Biden White House is now creating a task force to reunite families separated during the Trump administration. Did DHS do enough under your leadership to bring families back together?
Well, I believe we did. So this has been going on, obviously, the reunification of families for over 2.5 years now. As you know, that ended in June of 2018. So that process has been underway for some time, working through the courts, along with State Department and the Department of Homeland Security. So I think what the Biden team will find is that there's actually been a considerable amount of work done over these past 2.5 years on reuniting families. And those, some of those parents that we have been able to identify, what the court has been able to identify back in their home countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, have chosen to keep their children here in the U.S. Those that are here have chosen to keep their children here rather than to bring them back to be reunited. So it's a complex issue, but what I would say is that there's been a significant amount of work over these past 2.5, almost 3 years now, to reunite as many families as possible.
What would you say, Chad, to critics who would argue that there should have been more thought on the front side before the policy was implemented about how families would be reunited?
Well, I don't think there's any question about making sure from an operational perspective that this could have been done certainly in a better way. I think when the Attorney General announced his zero tolerance policy back in April, it took the Department of Homeland Security another 4 to 5 weeks to actually begin implementing what the Attorney General told us to do. And we did that because we were worried about how to operationalize this. So we had some concerns at the time, and we continued to work through those. And I think what you saw at the end of about a 30-day period before the president, through an executive order, stopped that practice, was operationally it was much more difficult than either the Department of Justice or the Department of Homeland Security knew at the time. But again, we've done a tremendous work. I would say the department had done a tremendous amount of work on making sure that we reunited as many families as possible, and we at least give families and parents the opportunity, if they're not still here in the U.S., to be reunited with their children. But as I indicated, a lot of those families, a lot of those parents have chosen to keep their children here in the U.S. with sponsors, with strangers, or with family, rather than be reunited in their home countries.
I'd like to ask about January 6th. On the day of the Capitol riot, you were on a diplomatic mission in Bahrain. What intelligence did the Department of Homeland Security have before the January 6th attack on the Capitol, and where did that intelligence go?
So we had general threat reporting prior to January 6th about a heightened threat environment there in D.C. because of this rally. That heightened threat environment had really been in place before the election and certainly post-election, given all the tensions and all the views regarding the outcome of the election. So we certainly knew that there was a heightened sense. That's why there had been numerous coordination calls leading up to the 6th, 2, 3, 4 days out. It's why the Department of Homeland Security, we beefed up our presence in facilities here in D.C. that we were responsible and in charge of security. It's why the Department of Interior and National Park Service also did the same. The Department of Defense also did the same. Why the Capitol Hill Police did not do the same, why they did not execute a plan if they had a plan in place to further protect that Capitol, I think is an ongoing question, and one I know that folks are taking a look at. But they had the same intelligence as we did as far as that heightened sense of alert, that heightened sense of threat. Now, what I will say is we did not have any specific intelligence that indicated at the department what eventually unfolded on January 6th. But at that time and leading up to that time, we were sharing all that information, not only from the Department of Justice, Department of Defense, we were sharing that with D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, and with the Capitol Hill Police as well.
As you've had a few weeks to reflect on your time in the Trump administration, what stands out to you as something you wish you or the administration would have handled differently?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think we can always communicate better why we were taking certain policy or certain decisions. So whether that is a lot of the immigration and border security initiatives that we undertook, a lot of the actions that we took during last summer, during civil unrest, and some of our activities and actions in Portland, and some of what we did around election security. I think we could always explain more about what the department is in charge of, our authorities, our limitations, and how we're protecting the American people. So there's always a better way to communicate. And so when I look back on my tenure and my time at the department, it's always been a challenge to communicate what the role is of DHS and how we go about protecting Americans every day. So we certainly could have continued to improve upon that.
And on the policy front?
Again, I would say, communicating. You mentioned some immigration measures, border security measures. These are all things that I think have been positive as far as making sure that we're protecting the American people. I think one thing that the department was very good at is making sure that we were thinking about the American people first. So whether, again, that's border security, that's immigration security, that's things that we did with the Coast Guard, cybersecurity. There's a number of things that I'm very, very proud of that we did a lot for, and that again, protecting Americans, protecting the homeland every day. What we could have done better, I think, to answer your question, is to communicate that better, to work a little bit closer with Congress. Congress was very challenging during our tenure, just because of I believe, the disdain that they had for the president. Also factored into really not working collaboratively with the department. So I wish we could have worked a little bit more closely with members of Congress on both sides of the aisle to get some long-standing changes in law that helps the department fulfill their mission.
Former Acting Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf, thanks very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
In addition to the new immigration bill,